One of the exciting things that my high school did when I was a freshman was to hold a family culture day. They did it at the beginning of the school year to celebrate the diversity of our school and to introduce the students to each other's cultural backgrounds. Now, I imagine it's fairly common, but back then, it was a very different thing for a school to do. I liked the idea because I had good friends from different backgrounds and had been curious about their families. And I considered how neat it would be to share parts of my family background. I really enjoyed that idea. And of course, I had a project to do for the Culture Day. We had to create a display teaching about our family culture that would give examples of who we were culturally and personally. And some of the things that we could use at our little stations were foods, pictures of the countries where our families originated, examples of customs, stuff like that. And I thought this sounded like a fun idea. I was proud of my Costa Rican heritage on my dad's side of our family. My mom's family were originally from Scotland, and I thought there were some interesting stories, but none of them were directly from Scotland. My grandpop, Ernesto, and my grandma Rosa still lived in Costa Rica, but they came to visit us pretty often. I loved Costa Rica. I had learned from an early age that life was different there than it was here in the U.S., and I thought that it would be a fun thing to show for my project. And I could get some tropical fruits and chocolates to show my favorite foods from Costa Rica. My mind filled with ideas, and I was really stoked for this project. And then a kid named Rick asked if I was going to talk about being an immigrant. What was he talking about? Illegal? What did it even mean? What do you mean, Rick? I asked. Well, are you here legally? Rick asked. I mean, do you remember when you first arrived here? No, I was born here, just like you, I said. But your parents, are they here legally? Rick continued. Of course. Why are you asking me this? I was getting annoyed now. Well, aren't you from south of the border? What? South of what border? Did your parents jump over the wall or tunnel under it? Rick asked. He was smiling. My dad was born in Costa Rica. My mom was born here, I said. It annoyed me that I felt like I had to explain this to someone. Why did I feel like I had to explain my heritage so often? And why was it such a big deal with some people? So, you're a mix. Did your dad come here illegally? Rick asked. Was he escaping from drug lords? Not everyone who is of Latin American descent is illegal, and not everyone of Latin American descent is even an immigrant, I said, and then I walked away. Looking back, I noticed that Blake was giving Rick a high five. Okay, that made sense. Rick was friends with Blake, a guy who, for some reason, didn't like people from Mexico. Now, I was not friends with Blake. He had thought that because I was part Latin American, I was from Mexico. And he and his friends, apparently including Rick, believed that all of Latin America was Mexico, or that the countries that were from south of the border were the same. I usually kept my distance from them. Maybe it was because I had experienced Blake's ignorance before and was tired of dealing with that sort of crap he and his friends seemed to enjoy. And perhaps it was because I felt stigmatized. Maybe it was because I had never even met an illegal immigrant. Maybe I was sensitive about my family background, but whatever it was, I now felt miserable. All the cool ideas I had for my project seemed to evaporate, and all I could think now was how Rick, Blake, and their friends would respond to whatever I did about Costa Rica. They would talk about drug dealers, beans, and half-breeds. And I felt hollow. In bio, my friend Alex asked me if I was going to bring in photos from Costa Rica. I shrugged. You have to. Alex was always enthusiastic about my Costa Rican background. Her dad was a biologist and had spent a lot of time there, and she loved hearing about my experiences whenever I went down to visit with my grandparents or my Aunt Bibi. I don't know, I said. I might bring in some stuff from where my mom's family comes from. That's cool, but didn't your mom's family come here like 200 years ago? Your grandparents still live in Costa Rica, and besides, I want to see all your cool photos and see what you bring in to eat. Alex loved all food. Yeah, maybe, I said. I don't know what I'm going to do. I thought you would be all over this project, Alex said. I mean, you have so much interesting stuff to talk about. Manu's going to bring in some things from his family's Maori background. I can't wait to see it. I think that he'll be the only one as interesting as your project will be. What is the matter? I'm pretty sure that Rick just called me an illegal immigrant, I said. If I do my project on Costa Rica, I know he and Blake and those guys will just give me more crap about being an immigrant. First off, what do you care what those idiots say? They wouldn't know the difference between Mexico, Costa Rica, or Guam, Alex said. And secondly, you aren't an immigrant. You were born here. And thirdly, there's nothing wrong with being an immigrant. Remember, unless you are of Native American descent, you came from immigrants. You even said so yourself. Alex was fired up. She really didn't like racism. Our friend Cheyenne was half African American and half Cheyenne Native American, and she had a lot of experience with racist people. Cheyenne was also Alex's best friend, and so anything that upset Cheyenne upset her. Similarly, I was one of Alex's best friends, and the same applied. She could be very protective of her pals, and we all loved her for that. It also made me feel better. I mean, I probably couldn't change Rick or Blake's minds about people who came from a different background, but I didn't have to let it bother me. Alex was right, as usual. When the day came for us to set up our projects, I put up my trifold board. On one side were pictures of Costa Rica and my dad's family, including Cabocar Indians. On the other side, I had pictures of Scotland and pictures of my mom's family, and in the middle, I had pictures of me. Some of the photos were of me in Costa Rica hiking, surfing, and working with animals, and playing soccer. Some were pictures of me in the U.S., hiking, playing soccer, working with my dad at his veterinary practice. I also put out the tropical fruits that I had purchased that could be found in Costa Rica and some chocolate because that's very important to indigenous people in the area where my dad grew up. Most everyone enjoyed my display. Everyone liked the raw cacao and chocolate. I was able to teach a lot of people about the country where my dad came from, and they all seemed interested. Rick and Blake didn't visit my station, and that was fine with me. My friends, including Alex and Cheyenne, all enjoyed my presentation and gave me a thumbs up when I finished. I felt proud of my mixed background. For most of my time in high school, I dealt with the ignorant comments from Rick and Blake and their friends. It didn't take me long to learn to ignore them. I found that it was really quite easy. I also learned that the majority of my fellow students were not like Rick and Blake. I learned that same lesson as an adult. I know there will always be people who do not like people who are different from them. But I also know that those people are the true minority. And I learned that any negative things that they might say about me or anyone else are none of my business, because those things don't matter to me. Thank you for watching. Please click on my right to subscribe if you like the video. And don't forget to click on the bell icon when you subscribe so that you can be notified when we upload a new video. Watch more videos on the left, including our playlist. And thank you again.